In Venezuela, during the National Economic Council, President Nicolás Maduro Moros proposed an economic zone with Colombia on the common border. Argentina's Vice President, Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner, said she is the victim of lawfare and media persecution. Social and workers' movements, as well as political leaders, have ratified their support to the Vice President. Angola holds general elections to renew the Congress and the top posts. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. The President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro Moros, announced this Tuesday the economic opening with Colombia for the benefit of both nations. During the National Council of Productive Economy, the head of state highlighted the opening with Bogotá as part of the re-establishment of bilateral relations. The work table was held at the Miraflores Palace in the capital, Caracas, together with several Venezuelan authorities also. The Venezuelan president proposed to his Colombian counterpart, Gustavo Petro, a commercial economic zone between the north of Santander and the state of Táchira.
We're going to propose to President Gustavo Petro the construction of a large economic, commercial, and productive zone between the north of Santander and the entire state of Táchira. A binational zone of economic, commercial, and productive development. The time has come for us to build it for the benefit of the population of Táchira and the population of northeastern Santander.
President Maduro, for his part, denounced all the economic sanctions of the United States of America against the country.
The more than 500 economic sanctions adopted by the United States of America against the economic apparatus of Venezuela, against the Venezuelan society, shook to the core the economic and social body of the Republic, and placed us in a situation of difficulties, but also of decisions towards the future.
In Colombia, the police put an end to the forced eradication of illicit crops, which mostly affected coca farmers, as they were not included in the crop substitution plans. The new director of the police of Colombia, General Henry Zanabria, said that there will be no more officers arriving to the places that there are hectares of coca to uproot them without the consent of their owners. The official stated that they are applying voluntary eradication in certain places where they have fled and held meetings with some members of institutions and farmers. He also assured that they do not intend to stop with the suspension of the forced eradication and that the government has a proposal ready to comply with the Constitution and the law. The Uruguayan Health Federation stages a partial general strike to demand better working conditions and a larger budget for the sector. The Federation informed in a press release that the strike, accompanied by a demonstration at the obelisk in the city of Montevideo towards the Ministry of Labor, is aimed at demanding the National Executive to increase the number of health personnel and to present to the authorities a list of demands from the union. The Vice President of Argentina, Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner, denounced that the Vialidad trial is not against her, but against Peronism, the national and popular governments that fight for truth and justice to create a change. After the court's refusal to grant her the possibility to extend her interrogation, Fernandez exercised her right to defense using YouTube to express her opinion on the case known as Vialidad. The former president also questioned the political and media campaign mounted around the trial and assured that the trial began as a fiction with a false script. Since nothing of what the prosecutors said was proven, on the contrary, everything contrary to what was said was proven with the testimonies of more than 100 witnesses summoned by the prosecution. Also questioned that the links of business persons that support former President Mauricio Macri with corruption in public works were not investigated. The Vice President of Argentina, Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner, stressed that the causes for her prosecution are the social policies implemented during her government and the government of late Nestor Kirchner.
That is why the prosecutor is asking for 12 years. They are 12 years, the 12 years of the best government that Argentina had in the last decades, that of Nestor Kirchner and my 2 mandates, and I say with numbers. Why are they asking us for 12 years? One for the memory, another for the truth, another for the justice, another for the fund, another for the AFJP, another for the YPF and the cow, another for the non-indebtedness, another for the wages of the workers. When I left, the workers took 51.8% of the GDP, and the rest was for the businessmen. Now, let alone the way we are. That is why they're going to stigmatize me. That is why they are going to condemn me.
On Tuesday, Mexican media workers in the city of Acapulco mobilized to demand justice after the murder of journalist Freddy Roman. With shouts of no to silence and signs that read enough impunity and justice, the demonstrators rejected the crime and demanded justice for all the killed colleagues. The communicators also demanded respect for the right to inform and to be informed. Freddy Roman, the editor of the newspaper La Realidad, was murdered by unknown armed men in Chipalcingo, in the state of Guerrero. With Roman's death, 15 journalists have been murdered in Mexico so far this year. In El Salvador, indigenous peoples and social organizations gathered in front of the Ombudsman's office to request protection for defenders of the Sensunapan River. The demonstrators rejected the installation of the 8th hydroelectric dam, stating that the project will damage at least 14 sacred communities. In this context, the environmental organizations and indigenous peoples demand from the authorities permanent protection and measures for the ancestral territories, while assuring that they will fight for the well-being of their territories in a comprehensive manner. We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. Ukrainian artillery on Tuesday targeted the administrative buildings of the Donetsk People's Republic in the center of the city, presumably to kill the head of the government. 3 dead and 6 wounded is the preliminary balance. Our special envoy, Alejandro Kirk, with the details.
Morning missile rain on Tuesday in the center of Donetsk.
Once again, and massively, the Ukrainian forces attack downtown Donetsk. For the first time since we are here, since March, the building of the head of government on my right and the Central Hotel where many journalists stay have been attacked. This is a clear message from the Ukrainian forces about what they can do.
There are no military installations in the neighborhood.
Bullets were flying around here. Well, it's a little scary, guys. It's a little scary. It's been a long time since there's been a strike here downtown.
Just 2 blocks west, the local government building.
This is another line crossed by the Ukrainian criminal regime. They are using terrorist methods. They are destroying civilians. They are shelling the city center. NATO 155 caliber shells are being used. In fact, the West is now involved in specific destruction of civilian structures in the city of Donetsk. That is what prevails today. In general, I believe that the Ukrainian criminal regime must suffer the punishment it deserves.
This driver had stopped at the red light near the police building. His companion wanders around in despair with a dead puppy in his arms.
I sat in the back with her. Ruslan's wife was sitting in the back. When she arrived, she shouts that it's the only thing she has left. And about my friend from my good friend's beer, we were going to do business. He was going to the Kirov district. We were going to do business, and there you have it.
Another 155mm shell landed near the most important bridge in town, which is known as Stalin Bridge. Another person was killed here. And nearby, in a residential area, 2 more shells. The street is called 25th anniversary of the Army of Workers and Peasants.
There were 2 civilians injured who were subsequently treated by the forces themselves. Yes, the public services are eliminating the aftermath of this with their own forces. An ambulance arrived quickly. The Commission of Inquiry arrived, so everything was done at a high level.
Alejandro Kirk, teleSUR, Donetsk.
United Nations political chief Rosemary DiCarlo told the UN Security Council on Tuesday, where the International Atomic Energy Agency has requested to send a mission to the Zaporizhzhia plant. She said preparations are proceeding and welcomed recent statements from Russia and Ukraine indicating support for the IAEA mission to the plant.
In close contact with the IAEA, the UN has assessed that we have the logistics and security capacity in Ukraine to support any IAEA mission to the plant from Kyiv, provided Ukraine and Russia agree. We once again urge the parties to provide the IAEA mission with immediate, secure, and unfettered access to the site. Any damage leading to the plant being cut from the Ukrainian power grid would have catastrophic humanitarian implications, particularly with winter approaching. As the Secretary General has made clear, the electricity produced at the Zaporizhzhia plant belongs to Ukraine.
Also, Russia's UN Ambassador Vasily Nebenzia told the Council that since its last meeting on the operation of Zaporizhzhia about 2 weeks ago, the nuclear safety situation has further deteriorated.
Last meeting of the Security Council on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, about 2 weeks have passed. In the course of that time, the nuclear safety situation has further deteriorated. The armed forces of Ukraine continue basically every day to shell the territory of Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and the town of Enerhodar, and this creates a real risk of radiation accident at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant with catastrophic consequences for the entire European continent.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan welcomed the head of the Palestinian state, Mahmoud Abbas, at the presidential palace in Ankara. The president of the Palestinian Authority, during his 3-day official visit, will hold the talks with the Turkish president to strengthen Palestinian-Turkish relations. Both leaders will also seek solutions to the latest political developments in the Palestinian territory and other international issues. This rapprochement came at a request of the President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, following Ankara's announcement on August 17th to strengthen diplomatic relations with Palestine.
Palestine always has an exceptional place in the hearts of our country and our people. As always, we are continuing our solidarity with the Palestinian people and our support for the Palestinian cause in the strongest manner. Turkey, which has recognized the Palestinian state since the moment it was declared, defends the two-state solution vision on every platform.
And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back. On Wednesday, polling stations opened in Angola for the general elections that will decide the Congress and the next president. Almost 14.4 million voters are called to the polls, set up in 13,238 integrated polling stations, which will close at 4 p.m. local time. In these elections, the country's president, João Lourenço, is seeking a second 5-year term. The context for 220 seats in the National Assembly involves the ruling Popular Movement for the Liberation of Angola, the MPLA, UNIDA, the Social Renewal Party, the National Front for the Liberation of Angola, and 4 other minor formations. The leader of the political force that wins the most seats will automatically become the president of the republic. The World Health Organization confirmed a new outbreak of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo in the east of the country. Authorities reported that the new outbreak of Ebola was registered in the province of North Kivu after the confirmation of the diagnosis in several suspected patients detected last week. It was the death of a 46-year-old woman in the hospital of Beni in mid-August that alerted the health authorities of the reappearance of the pathology. In this sense, the officials urged the population to maintain the security measures to prevent the spread of the disease. And the Syrian Arab army drove out a convoy of the U.S. occupation forces in Hezakek province. The checkpoint of the Syrian forces repelled a U.S. convoy of 6 military vehicles, accompanied by opposition militia of the Syrian Democratic Forces, which sought to overrun the village of Al-Zalehieh. Social movements in the region pointed out that the government army forced the convoy to turn back. The Syrian Ministry of Defense highlighted the maneuver that seeks to stop the actions of Washington and its Western allies who promote the plundering of natural resources. The European Union has denounced Israel's repressive measures against Palestinian human rights organizations and called on the Tel Aviv regime to clarify alleged terrorism accusations. European Union's Foreign Policy Chief, Joseph Borrell, said such claims are unacceptable and that the EU stands firm alongside Palestinian civil organizations to defend the right of expression and association in the occupied territories. Borrell said Tel Aviv must put forward convincing proof of its accusations or else the EU will act accordingly. Borrell also emphasized that Israel must not use the anti-terrorism law to undermine civil society. And Qatar recently arrested at least 60 foreign workers who protested going months without pay, and the purported some of them, an advocacy group said, just 3 months before Doha hosts the 2022 FIFA World Cup. The move comes as Qatar faces intense international scrutiny over its labor practices ahead of the tournament. Like other Gulf Arab nations, Qatar heavily relies on foreign labor. The workers' protest a week ago and Qatar's reaction to it could further fuel the concern. Video footage posted online showed some 60 workers angry about their salaries protesting on August 14th outside of the Doha offices of the Al Bandari International Group, a conglomerate that includes construction, real estate, hotels, food service, and other ventures.
So there's a really big concern there. Firstly, that we have a system, despite all the talk of reform in Qatar, that still punishes workers when they complain about their situation, that despite that, workers aren't getting paid, and it's very efficient at punishing them and kicking them out of the country. And yet, when it comes to simply getting these workers paid, it's very, very slow. So it's really quite a disturbing situation, raising lots of questions about whether Qatar is really ready to be hosting an international event like the World Cup, given what appears to be a remaining very poor labor rights record.
The World Health Organization on Tuesday ranked China's vaccine regulatory system at a functional level of maturity, meaning the country has a stable and integrated regulatory system to ensure vaccine quality. The WHO's global classification system for national vaccine regulators is an important and effective means of measuring a nation's vaccine regulatory capabilities. China's vaccine regulatory system was previously evaluated twice in 2011 and 2014, and a new round of comprehensive evaluation was conducted in July 2022 after WHO upgraded the evaluation criteria. teleSUR English continues to grow. Its signal now reaches Europe. You can order it from your cable dealer or tune it yourself. These parameters that you see on the screen are in place since July 1st. Quite soon, further changes will be implemented for the signals in the Middle East and Africa. Now, more than ever, the world connects to us and their stories are heard in other farther away nations. This news multi-platform will continue providing truthful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative and our faithfulness to our audience. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. And now you can also follow us on TikTok account at teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. For teleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.